Welcome to the Abundance Hack Podcast, where we want to inspire you to push past your blocks, limiting beliefs, and comfort zone to live a confident, happy, and fulfilling life. I am your host, Niajae, influencer, motivational speaker, and boss babe. Every time you hit subscribe or leave a 5-star rating, I do my happy dance. What's up, guys? It's Niajae. Thank you for watching or listening to the Abundance Hack Podcast. I am joined by the wonderful Will Grant, and I'm super excited to have him. So before we get into who you are, what you do, and your story, I want to ask you, what does abundance mean to you?
Ooh, such a good question. I believe abundance is a mindset. You know, we all have different perspectives and we see the world all from different angles. And I think when it comes to abundance, it all comes from, you have to first think in abundance to feel in abundance, and then that's what creates your own reality of abundance.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so tell us your story. Like, who is Will Grant?
Man, I have so many different stories. I feel like I've lived 9 lives, so it's like,
So
I'm
he's
not
really
quite
like
sure.
that.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure where to start. Explain, where exactly do you want me to start? Like,
Okay, so I understand you was a BMX.
Yeah,
like,
still am.
Still am.
Yeah, so I race BMX professionally. I've been injured for about the past year, and even before that year, I was racing hurt, really hurt between my collarbone, my knee, just really pushing when I shouldn't have been pushing. Just kind of going, and then I had all these signs in my life telling me, hey, I gotta change something, and I wasn't listening. You know, I just kept pushing, and then until everything really broke down around me, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and then I had nothing but pieces to build, and I had to go from there.
So you injured yourself during
Yeah, yeah, I ended up actually breaking my collarbone, exploding my whole entire knee, and cracking my femur all the way up.
Oh my God.
So, and I've put all of my energy into really myself and racing bikes and trying to make Will Grant as great as Will Grant could be. And then, and my own BMX career. And then when I ended up losing everything to where all of a sudden I don't have BMX anymore. I can't even walk, I can't put my arms, I have pains in my body from everywhere. And everything that I've done was based on my own physicality. And when I lost all of that, it just changed everything. Like I had to think about everything differently because I was just broken down at my lowest point. And you know, that's when the depression kicks in and all of the anxiety, and you're not quite sure what you're doing with your life and where you're at and why you've done everything you've done. Because you're just at the point where you're just not happy with where you are because it's in such a low place. And then it really started with the breathing and with the meditating. Like my brother told me about the Wim Hof method, and I was first actually, because I couldn't train, I couldn't do anything. And I thought, okay, so if I can't train physically, how can I train? And I can train my mind. And I know I kept seeing things around me about the best way to train your mind is through meditation. And I'm telling you, me trying to meditate was like taking a 500-pound person and putting them on a treadmill. Like it was the most difficult thing. Like my mind has always been going a million miles per hour, just really tripping over my own thoughts. And then to be able to sit myself down to where I couldn't leave my house, I couldn't move myself physically, I had to stop and I just started breathing and meditating. All of a sudden, my whole perspective cleared of where I was, what was important, what was holding me back, as far as I had so many things just limiting my own potential.
Yes.
And then as I was able to stop and to breathe, and everything began to process. And then when things began to process, then I had just such a better idea of where to go and what happened.
Yeah. So to take it back just a little bit, a lot of your identity was attached to BMX and you not being able to race.
Yeah.
Like you had to figure out like who you were outside of that.
My whole identity was not just a BMX racer, but like, fitness and training and like just how I looked physically.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when you break all these bones in your body, you lose all your muscles, you lose all your looks. Like I can't do anything that I was known to my whole identity, exactly like you said.
Yeah.
So it definitely has to change your whole perspective on and anything. When a lot of times when these negative things happen to people, they just, okay, I can't do what I want to do because these things happen. But those things are opportunities to find how we're going to evolve ourselves to the next step of ourselves. And that's really the biggest thing of every failure, every mistake, every negative or uncomfortable situation that we go through our lives they're opportunities. You know, they're opportunities to learn, they're opportunities to grow and to evolve into our greatest selves, to live our best lives.
Yes. Love it. I love it. Yeah, it's everything that I preach about.
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
that I preach about. So what would you say was the biggest thing that brought you out of that space of like depression and like, okay, who am I? Like, what am I doing with my life? What was it? The Wim Hof?
Just breathing and meditating. You know, like it doesn't have to be Wim Hof. You know what I mean? Like that's just the one that worked for me the best. That I liked it. You know, it's very intense, but just to be able to stop and to breathe and connect with your breath, because your breath is your spirit. Your breath is your doorway into your whole control center. And a lot of people have no control of what's going on. They have no control of their thoughts, their emotions, their feelings, their life.
Yeah.
So when you connect with your breath, you learn to gain control of your thoughts, your feelings, and your life. And then just to stop and breathe, and then all of a sudden everything was just clearing. Like, you know, that dust was settling, so I just had a clear perspective of not only myself, because I was living through my ego really my whole life of just Will Grant, trying to make Will Grant great.
Yeah.
How great can he be, you know? And then when I lost all that and I started breathing, I got to see myself outside of myself. And I realized, well, one, I'm not as great as I thought I was, and it's not all about me, you know? Like, and I noticed the more I pushed to make myself great, it's like I was just fighting against so much resistance. Instead of just using the power of the energy around me and learning how to bring everybody up and everything up around me, that's where I'm gaining that real power, and I'm using that law of inertia and gaining that momentum to live the life that I want to live, instead of just kind of fighting everything around because my ego's in control.
It takes a lot of self-awareness to even admit that. Yeah, that's amazing.
And meditating is training the part in your brain that brings self-awareness. You know, I thought I had self-awareness before I was breathing, but I really didn't. When I started to breathe and meditate, you gain that self-awareness. Like, that's your doorway into your control center of your everything. So then you're kind of learning what makes you tick, what makes you feel this way. What, you know, these feelings, a lot of people mask them.
Yes.
So there's so much going on. So say if they're in an uncomfortable situation or they're not feeling right, everybody has their own things. If it's drug, if it's alcohol, if it's food, or even if it's just consuming your mind with scrolling through your Instagram feed. You know, like so many people, they'll never let their mind and body process of what's going on to figure out how to go next, because they're so consumed just consuming content. They're never giving their body and brain enough time to process what's going on.
Yep. Oh my God, I talk about all this stuff like it's like music to my ears, because it's everything that I feel like is wrong with our society. They're masking. There's so many voids because we're lacking connection. And people don't understand because they're not self-aware. So they're drinking, it's drugs, and you know, binge eating. Like, I mean, we all have.
I feel like I've learned a lot, nowhere near what I plan on learning, but I've learned so much because I've made so many mistakes and I've failed so many times. Like earlier in my career, when I was 16, 3 months after turning pro, I tore my ACL. And then a year later, my first race back, I re-tore my ACL. My first race back after that, I broke my heel. And then during that time of all this pain that I was feeling internally, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and I was just masking with drugs, alcohol, everything bad. And then it never was able to process what's going on and how I can evolve to that next step. And that's the biggest thing, because these negative things are going to happen to us no matter what. You know, it doesn't matter how great your life is, there's going to be things that we have to overcome.
Yeah.
And the difference in being able to succeed and to find that abundance in our life and to be able to live our greatest life and to actually enjoy and find that love and find that joy is to be able to take these situations that we're in and process it. Okay, how can I learn from this? Like, how can I move forward? Like, because all these situations that come into our lives, they come into our lives for a reason. Pain is meant to teach us something. You know, physically, mentally, emotionally, like, we're meant to be learning from it. We can't just take a pill and get rid of the pain. That problem is still there. So when we can learn to process that pain and to learn from it, then that's our ticket to evolve into our happier selves, our greatest selves, our more abundant selves. And or we can go the other way to where, oh, if this happened to me, I guess it's over. You know, I guess I'm just meant to be miserable the rest of my life. And it doesn't have to be that way. It's all who's in control up here. Are you in control of your environment, or is your environment in control of you?
Yeah, I agree 100%. So I have an analogy that I've been kind of toying with in my last couple of videos about life is kind of like a video game. Like, you remember Mario Brothers, where like you have these different levels, and at the end of every level there's this big huge monster or like challenge that you have to face. And so some people face that monster to get to the next level, and then some people are like, okay, this is too hard, I'm just gonna hang out at this level, collect all the coins that I can.
I love that you said that, because literally I'm driving the other day, and that thought actually came into my mind of like, it's like a game where each level, even if you fail on that level, you can restart it and learn from it. So how can you do it better the next time?
Exactly.
You know, and then it doesn't matter what you're pursuing and wanting to accomplish. Like, every failure, when it doesn't go quite the way that you want it to go, you stop, you process that, and learn how can you do it better next time. And then that is literally the difference in succeeding and not succeeding, is learning from the mistakes and learning from failures.
Yeah. So what would you say has been like your biggest block, and how did you overcome it?
My ego. Like, you know, and it took me a long time to admit this, you know, and it was absolutely my ego. As I was living for myself, and everything was about Will Grant, and how could I make my life great, and how could I make people think I'm cool, and how, you know, how could I make myself happy and make myself feel good, and all this, and then I was just fighting resistance, you know, all the time. And then what I learned is, if I want happiness, I have to bring other people happiness. If I want joy, I have to bring other people joy. You know, if I want money, I have to bring other people value. You know, and it starts with, you know, externally, because we're all in this together. Like, this is, like, we are, like, I think of the earth as like one big living organism. Just how we're one living organism, and there's millions of different cells and microorganisms that make up us, but you know, the earth is the same way, and we're in this together to bring the health and the happiness of the world and of the earth.
I love that. I love that. So I know you grow a lot of your own food, or like fruits and vegetables and stuff.
And it's funny you say that, because I've learned more about abundance and succeeding and growing from just my own house, my own yard. Like, I started with literally just sandy soil, a sandy front yard, a sandy backyard, and you know, I tried planting these little annual fragile vegetables with nothing but failure, and then it took until I started just building the soil. And it comes the same thing into our own life, like just changing our habits and changing the soil and bringing the life in our minds to understanding that, just building that soil, and then that's what's going to nourish the seeds that we plant.
I love that, planting seeds. Yes.
Exactly. And then every day it's like I walk out into that garden and I see a little bit more growth, and and that's inspiration for me into my own life, because I'm seeing that it's just a little growth every single day. Over a year, you got new branches, you got new trees, you got new fruits. And it's just a little bit of growth every single day, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, awesome. So Wim Hof.
Yeah.
How did you discover him, and
Okay.
how would you describe him to someone who doesn't know who he is? Because I just heard about him from you recently, and now I know it's like a thing.
So I first discovered Wim Hof when I broke everything. I was stuck in my house. I couldn't do anything, and I was like, how can I train, make myself better, even though I can't train and make myself better? And it went back to just learning how to meditate. And then I told my brother, who's honestly been one of the biggest inspirations to me, the strongest mentally, physically person I've ever met in my life, about me trying to learn how to meditate. And he's actually the one that first told me about Wim Hof. He broke his arm, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna heal my broken arm in half the time, be good to go, off of some deep breathing and cold therapy. And I'm like, all right, dude, good luck, buddy. You know, like, we'll see how that goes. And then he's doing it, and he's just like, dude, you gotta try this. And when I flew up there, he showed it to me. And like, I didn't understand it until I did it. And feeling is truly understanding. And I just began practicing that. And it's like, I got what I would get in a 30-minute meditation, I got in a 5-minute round. Just like instantly, and that's what it was. It just to breathe in deep, you're turning on all of the cells and all of your senses. You're turning on everything in your whole entire body, just learning how to breathe as deep as you can. Everything is fueled off oxygen. Our minds, our body, and that blood flow, it's all fueled off oxygen. So to increase that level of oxygen coming in, it raised my awareness. It raised all my senses. It raised all of these things. And then, so the trick with the Wim Hof is you do 30 to 50 deep breaths in, as deep as you possibly can. And then you let it all out and hold and just witness, right? So you're turning on everything, almost like if you're in a fight or flight situation. So like if a cougar was chasing you, what do? Because you're turning everything off to survive. You're diving into such a deeper part of your brainstem to everything is turned on because everything has to be as quick as it can.
Wow.
And then when everything is turned on like that, and then you just stop and sit still and witness, that's where you're understanding where your mind goes. And then you can actually hold your breath longer than you've ever been able to hold your breath your first round. Your first session, you'll be able to hold your breath probably 2 to 3 minutes.
Wow.
And even if you've never held your breath for over 30 seconds, and that's just raising your level of performance. Right? Because everything is over oxygenated, everything is working better. You're tapping into your adrenaline and everything. And then to be able to sit still and let everything process, you know, and then you're just sitting there letting everything process. You feel the energy throughout your body, your arms and legs and everything is starting to tingle. And then you're checking your times, how long you'll be able to hold your breath. And you see where your mind went when you had really good times. And you see where your mind went when your times weren't as good. And then you could go back and adjust to learn, and then you're changing your habit of thinking. Because you'll know, like, okay, my times were bad when I thought like this. You know, I didn't perform as well when I let my mind go into comparing myself with this or focusing on the result, right? And then when I would just quit focusing on the result or quit focusing on comparing and just being in that present moment, feeling and witnessing and almost being the observer, then I was able to understand what was going to make me able to perform better. And then you start, and that becomes habit. And you start taking that in every single area of your life, from a conversation, from your own studying, from your own job, to whatever your goals may be.
Yeah, I love that. So how would you compare it to just traditional meditation? Because I feel like I do deep breaths, but it's deeper than just a regular deep breath of like a regular meditation.
I wouldn't say I'm like a meditation expert in any way. You know what I mean? Like, this is just all based off my own experience. And I do regular meditating all the time. I love it. It's just one of the best things. But the biggest thing I would say is the difference is it's so much more intense. It's like the difference between cardio and like high interval training.
Okay.
You know, or like heavy weight training. Like, you're getting a lot done in a lot less time and just getting in deeper, quick, instantly, because you're activating everything that you can and then holding still. When regular meditation is just, you're feeling that breath, you're feeling that sensation, but then you're turning everything on and your body is speaking. Your body, and most people don't understand the language of their own body. So when they have pain here or a feeling here, they don't know what's going on. They don't understand what's going on, so they'll mask it in some way or another. But then when you're able to sit there and just breathe deep, you just gain that complete understanding of it, and you're feeling those feelings, and then you're starting to understand and communicate with your body. And then the more you do that, then you start able to speak the same language. And when you're able to speak the same language, when you get a feeling or a pain or a feeling in your gut, you know what it means, because you've dived deep into your control center to understand the buttons. We have so many different buttons and controls to our body and our minds that we only know the most very, very basic. And I believe a huge part of that is because we're breathing just the bare minimum to get by. Okay? So we have all these different buttons and controls that when we spend time with our breath and when we spend time with ourselves, we learn how to gain control of what's going on. And then that helps in every single area of our life, just to be in more control.
Yeah, I love that. So how often do you meditate?
I wake up, starting a morning routine was everything, because when I first started, okay, I'm gonna do this every single day, it became more and more difficult because it came 5 o'clock, oh no, I gotta do this. 6 o'clock, okay, I gotta find time to do this or I'm gonna mess up my routine. But then when I was like, okay, these things that I know I have to do every day, I'm gonna wake up and just put them into a morning routine. So I wake up every morning, and one of the first things that I do is I'll do 15 to 20 minutes of just round after round. Sometimes if my mind is overwhelmed and stressed, my breath holds are less, and then I'm taking inventory in where my mind's at, and then I'll go until I'm able to gain that control and my breath times are a lot better. And then, so 15 to 20 minutes pretty much every single morning, and that's how I'll start my day. And usually, sometime in the afternoon, I'll throw in another session. If it may not be a full Wim Hof session, but maybe just a regular meditation session. So if there's a day that I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, or my mind I catch is just kind of tripping over my own thoughts, I've got all this coming at me from all the different angles, I need to stop and process it. So I'll stop and maybe I'll start with one round and I'll just finish another 10 minutes of just feeling my breath. And when you could quiet down your mind, that's when your greatest idea comes, because our minds are always going, that's our monkey brain, and when we're able to turn that off, then our highest, greatest self is able to speak to us, and we're able to hear, and because we're present to be able to observe everything that's going around us. Also, I live in a house with other professional athletes from around the world, which is an amazing experience just for the cultural side of it. So I have people from Japan, people from Italy, people from Australia, always coming and staying in my house, and just to get a different perspective of how they view things, how they think. It's completely different. Wow. And it raises your own awareness and it broadens your own perspective. But so I'll also do an evening session of meditating or breathing, to where I'll be like, hey, you want to do a couple rounds of breathing? And they know, they see the benefit because they felt it. And it helps, because when you're an athlete, being in control of your thoughts and your mind is everything. When you're up on that gate, or if it's right before that play or right before that game, your mind, the training is already done, so you can't affect that. You got what you got at that point. So everything are determining is, if you win or lose, is where your mind's at on that day. So being able to control your mind and to control the buttons and the controls of your body is absolutely everything. So I'll ask them, hey, do you want to do a couple rounds? And then all of a sudden we're having another session. And when you're doing it with a group of people, a lot of times it even intensifies it. Because then energy, it's building upon that energy, and you're able to go deeper. Yeah. And then a lot of times you're able to be able to lift their energy. As their energy raises, it raises your own energy as well.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. So like yoga classes when you're like meditating, or I just went to a Abraham Hicks event and just the energy in that room.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, it's crazy. Like
surrounding yourself with good energy.
Yeah, like I went to a Wim Hof event down in Miami one time, and there was a room of about 400 people just doing this deep breathing, and it was it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And with the energy of about 400 people, like we all tripped. Like we had a trip. Like I woke up and I've never felt this much feeling of love coming over me in my whole entire life. Like I woke up and after just 30 minutes of just doing this nonstop breathing, I just felt this overwhelming feeling of love that I've never felt in my whole life. And I looked over at one of my best friends and I just gave him a hug and I was like, dude, that's intense. Because when you get outside of yourself, you realize that how much love is there, you know, and how much that we're in this together. I feel, especially, you know, the more that we're living in our ego, we're living very lonely. And to get outside of our ego, to realize like we're one, like, we are in this together, and like we need to be bringing each other up. And when we bring each other up, that's what's going to create a better world for us, for our kids, for our family, and for our community.
Yeah,
so.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so where does the cold showers or jumping in like ice ponds or whatever, whatever it is that he does?
Cold is, I mean, there's so many different areas of where that's going to benefit you. Okay. What I like about it the most is it's just a comfort killer, right? So our comfort zone has a direct correlation with how successful we're going to be in every single area of our life. Literally, if we want to grow, if we want to expand, if we want to learn, like we have to be able to step out of our comfort zone. That's where all growth is. All growth, all progression is when we step out of our comfort zone. And you learn that from even training with weights or working out physically. If you go to the gym and if you're comfortable the whole time, you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like it takes you to step out of your comfort zone to find that result in, you know, physically. Like for example, if you're doing the 15 reps of whatever exercise that is, it's not the first few reps that you can do easily that make the impact. It's the last reps when you don't have anything left and you're stuck.
Yeah.
That's what makes your body and brain say, okay, something has to change, something has to grow for the next time. And jumping in that cold water, it sucks. It's uncomfortable. And we have to become really good at getting uncomfortable to be able to constantly see progression and progress in our own lives. So just to wake up in the morning and to overcome the battle of being afraid to step out of your comfort zone is huge. And then when you jump into that cold water, it not only gives you all these physical benefits of your blood flow and your arteries and your oxygen level just increasing, it fights inflammation, and the healthier we are physically, you know, the clearer our minds are going to work. So it gives us this big burst of energy when we're getting out, and then on top of that, we gain this inner confidence and inner strength to be able to pursue our goals.
People often say motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. Zig Ziglar. Living a fulfilling and happy life takes conscious effort. Join Abundance Hack Members Club to receive motivational videos, affirmation recordings, and guided meditations for you to maintain a positive mindset and high vibrations. Head over to abundancehack.com for more information. Now back to the show.
Everything that has ever been accomplished in this world for human beings ever, in history and everything, has been from people being able to step out of that comfort zone. And then that's in our own lives as well, because we are only activating at such a small percentage of our potential.
Yes.
You know, it's, and because everything in the life is so comfortable right now. We don't have to fight to eat or stay warm or find food. Like, we have everything there. So then everyone's like, okay, we're comfortable. What do we do next? What's the meaning?
Yeah.
Everyone's looking for the meaning of life because they can't find it because everything is there for them already. But then when we're able to train our brains, like how you're running from there and back, you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and then it's going to correlate from every other area of your life.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I do feel like so many people are searching for that meaning in life. And we
it's
have
because
it.
they're comfortable.
We have it so good. I mean, think about like Amazon Prime. You want something, you have it in 2 days.
Yeah.
Like we literally have it so easy. So what are you doing each day to challenge yourself? What are you doing each day to push yourself?
Exactly.
And people don't.
Yeah,
They don't.
and I think, well, before, humans had to push themselves just to survive. You know, now we don't have to push ourselves to survive, so we're like, why would we push ourselves? But then they have to see that vision, and they have to see something that they want that's more and greater than themselves, because we have to be with ourselves to be able to survive. But we've overcome that already. You know, as a human species, most of us have pretty much overcome a survival aspect. So we have to, now it's our time, our next step in our evolution is to step outside of ourselves and realize, what can we do to, you know, raise our own as a community, as a world, as a species? And that comes, again, we need to step out of our comfort zone to build that strength to be able to keep pursuing whatever we want to pursue.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
I'm actually in the middle, or kind of the end, of writing a book.
Nice.
And I've just got back into training myself as well, so I'm kind of training back into like an athlete as well.
Nice.
Still in physical therapy, but I mean, I'm taking my physical therapy as serious as I would if I was training to compete on the pro level, because I need to be training and pushing myself as much as I possibly can, physically, mentally, emotionally. I want to be pushing myself constantly, because that's when you learn. That's when you progress. And the more I learn and the more I progress, the more I will be, or the more effective I will be at helping other people and bringing up this world around me. And then I'm taking all of that I learn of constantly, because I'm stepping out of my comfort zone every single day, and to where I'm putting myself into these stressful environments to learn, to understand, to gain that, so I can teach and help other people. So I'm making as many videos as I possibly can, just through my own experience of what's helped me to be able to overcome and live my greatest life. And then I'm also putting that all into a book as well. And I've been working on my website, bwillgrant.com, constantly just trying to add more value, and just how can I help the world? Like, what can I do? What have I learned through my experiences, through all my studies, that's going to help bring up the world and make this world a better place? And I want to reach as many people as I can with all of the things that I'm learning myself. And with that is online and with the video. Because some people like reading, but everybody likes watching videos.
Yeah.
You know, and not everyone is on the internet, but most people, and more people are getting on the internet as well. So we can, like, that's just an opportunity. Like, you can't ask for a better opportunity of where we can genuinely sit there and reach as many people as we can and help in any way that we can in our own unique way. Because we all have lived a different life and view the world a little bit differently and have a little bit different of a perspective based on our own experiences, our own struggles, our own tribulations, our own things that we've overcome. That gains our own unique perspective in order to help the world in our own unique, beautiful way.
Yeah, completely. So if you had to give 3 top tips for living an abundant life, what would they be?
3 top tips to living an abundant life. 1 is give yourself time every single day to stop, breathe, and process. Connect with your breath, because your breath is how you're going to understand where you're at and where you want to go and what's truly important, and just broaden your own perspective. Take time building a relationship and falling in love with your breath, because when you fall in love with your breath, you focus on your own strengths. Number 2 is getting outside of yourself to realize, like, how can you help the people around you? I mean, the most selfish thing that you could do is help out the people around you, because that's just going to make your life better. Energy is energy. It's hard to be miserable when you have happy people around you. And that's how can you help other people? And that's where you're going to find that happiness, and that's where you're going to find that joy and that fulfillment that we all seem to be missing. Because that emptiness of, like, okay, what's the meaning to this? That's coming because we're thinking about ourselves and what we want. and what we need, and then what everything about us. When we're able to step outside of that and to think about, okay, how can we help the people around us? How can we bring this world up better? Yeah, that's number 2. So number 3, so you got the breath, and then you have the just stepping outside yourself and living for the other ones around you. And the third is you got to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like, no goal will ever be accomplished if you're staying and living in your comfort zone. All of the greatest and most beautiful things, they come when you step out of your comfort zone. You'll notice that the most beautiful flowers in nature come after a big storm, you know? And then flowers, when they're pollinated, that's what brings the fruits, okay? So we have to be able to step out of our comfort zone every day. You know, there's that famous saying, do something every day that scares you.
Yes.
Because when you're scared, you're out of your comfort zone. That's what gets that heart pumping. That's what gets you breathing deep. That's what, okay, it gives you that higher, deeper perspective, that understanding. We have to step out of our comfort zone to be able to see what we're capable of.
Yeah.
Like, we have to be able to push ourselves past our comfort zone to find our limits, to find our potential, and to live our greatest life. And that's when we're going to find that joy. That's when we're going to find that happiness. That's when we're going to find that abundance.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So where can people find you online?
Everything I do is on my website. It's on www.thewillgrant.com. So I'm constantly creating content for Instagram, for Twitter, and for YouTube, and I'm writing a book as well. But all of that is funneled straight to my website as well. So thewillgrant.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any last words that you want to say?
Take a deep breath. Yeah, just.
Can you actually show us? Can you show us we'll maybe go by the pool and show us how this works or looks, or one last question, did you ever feel weird or shy, stepping out of your comfort zone? But I guess I've seen some of the videos, and when you started posting it, did you ever feel weird? Is anyone gonna think that I'm weird for doing this?
Yeah, of course. Not just ready to feel weird, but there's gonna be people who know more about it. Who know more about the method, who know more about how to do it better. So I was always, there's always a part to second guess, to think okay, they might think I'm weird, and then they might say, what if I'm doing it off?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, feeling is understanding. So I'm learning about it more and more every day. But that stepping into that cold shower every day, that trains that part in my brain to overcome that chatter. To overcome that chatter of, what if these people think I'm silly? Well, usually the people who are thinking I'm silly, they're not doing anything.
Yes.
Those are the people who didn't pursue their lives, or didn't pursue their goals. That's why they think it's silly, because they're afraid to step out of their comfort zone. But the people who are really doing things and really accomplishing, they're going to see what you're doing, that you're stepping, putting yourself out there and getting out of your comfort zone. They're going to respect that, and then all of a sudden, it's that law of attraction. Then you're going to start attracting the people who are going to want to lift you up instead of tear you down.
Yes.
And so that's why I overcame that fear of, what if people think I'm silly, because I know that it was just going to attract the people who are going to help me keep pursuing this, and it's going to kind of put away the people who are just going to try to bring me down.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, jumping into that cold water is training the same part in my brain to be able to step into that cold water even though I hear that chatter. To be above the chatter, outside the chatter, and stronger than that inside chatter that's always going to bring you down.
Yeah, so powerful. So powerful. I love it. All right, guys, so he is going to show us his breathing technique, the Wim Hof
Yeah. How about this?
technique.
So I want you to feel it. Okay.
You want me to feel it?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna talk you through it. Okay. So I'm just gonna have you
Right now,
or we can go outside and I can have you lay down so you can really feel it.
Okay.
If we lay down on one of the pool chairs, then you can really just, because the more you're able to sit back and relax and surrender, the more you're able to observe what's going on.
Okay.
And you'll feel what I'm talking about the very first time you do it.
Okay.
But you want to give your best to get the best, you know? So it's like the same thing. If you go into it with 40%, you may only get 40%, but if you go into it and you try to take each breath as deep and as strong and as abundant as you possibly can, taking in that abundance of oxygen, then that's when you're going to get the abundance of results.
Awesome. All right, so if you are listening on iTunes, you definitely want to check out the video so you can see him teaching me this breathing method. All right, guys, so go check out the video. And until next time, love and light. Thank you for listening to the Abundance Hack Podcast. Don't forget to leave comments and questions. Remember, every time you subscribe or leave a 5-star rating, I do my happy dance.